The summer heat pressed against my skin as I watched Julie across the backyard, her silver hair catching the golden light of evening. She moved with a confidence I'd forgotten she possessed, her laugh floating over the chatter of our family reunion. It had been 20 years since we'd seen each other, but when our eyes met across the crowd, something stirred, something I hadn't felt in decades. She excused herself from her conversation and walked toward me, her gaze never leaving mine. "Laura," she said, her voice carrying the same warmth I remembered from our childhood summers, "you look absolutely radiant." Her fingers brushed mine as she handed me a glass of wine, the touch lingering just a moment longer than necessary. "Before we dive deeper into tonight, would you mind hitting that like button and subscribing? It truly helps the channel grow, and trust me, you won't want to miss what unfolds next." The evening air was thick with the scent of magnolia and the distant sound of laughter from our family gathering. Julie and I had found ourselves on the old porch swing, the wooden boards, creaking softly beneath us as we swayed in the gentle breeze. 20 years had passed since we'd last spoken, yet sitting beside her felt as natural as breathing. "Do you remember that summer when we were 16? Julie asked, her fingers tracing the rim of her wine glass. Her voice carried a hint of mischief that made my pulse quicken. "We snuck out to the old barn, just the two of us." I smiled, memories flooding back of stolen moments and whispered secrets. "You taught me how to dance that night," I replied, feeling heat rise in my cheeks at the recollection. "Among other things," she murmured, her gaze meeting mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. The way she looked at me now was different from the innocent curiosity of our youth. There was knowledge there, experience, a depth that spoke of a woman who knew exactly what she wanted. The family barbecue continued around us, but the sounds seemed to fade as Julie shifted closer on the swing. Her hand found mine, fingers intertwining with a familiarity that transcended time. "I've thought about you over the years," she confessed, her thumb tracing gentle circles over my knuckles. "Wondered what might have been if we hadn't been so young, so afraid." My heart hammered against my ribs as her words sank in. The attraction I'd felt all those years ago hadn't been one-sided after all. "Julie," I whispered, unsure of what to say, what to feel. "I know we're family," she continued, her voice soft yet determined. "But we've always been more than that, haven't we? More than cousins, more than friends." The evening shadows grew longer. As we talked, sharing stories of marriages that had ended, of children grown and gone, of lives that had taken us far from this Kentucky farm where we'd spent our summers. With each revelation, the space between us seemed to shrink, until I could feel the warmth radiating from her skin, could catch the subtle scent of her perfume mixed with summer air. "I have a confession," Julie said, setting down her wine glass and turning to face me fully. "I didn't come to this reunion just to catch up with family." My pulse quickened at her admission. "What do you mean?" "I came for you, Laura. I've been thinking about you for months, wondering if you felt it too. This connection we've always had." Her hand moved to cup my cheek, thumb brushing softly across my skin. "Tell me I'm not imagining this." The touch sent electricity through my entire body. I leaned into her palm, my eyes fluttering closed as I savored the sensation. When I opened them again, Julie's face was inches from mine, her breath warm against my lips. "You're not imagining anything," I whispered, my voice barely audible above the sound of my racing heart. That was all the encouragement she needed. Julie's lips met mine in a kiss that was both tender and urgent, filled with decades of suppressed longing. Her mouth was soft and inviting, tasting of wine and promises. My hands found their way to her shoulders, pulling her closer as the kiss deepened. When we finally parted, both breathing heavily, Julie rested her forehead against mine. "Come with me," she whispered, her voice husky with desire. "Emma's inside helping with the dishes. We could slip away to the guest cottage." Emma, Julie's traveling companion, a woman with silver hair and knowing eyes who'd been watching us all evening with an amused smile. I'd assumed they were simply friends, but now I wondered if there was more to their relationship. "What about Emma?" I asked, though my body was already responding to Julie's suggestion, heat pooling low in my stomach. Julie's smile was mysterious, secretive. "Emma understands me better than anyone. She knows what I need, what we both need." Her fingers traced along my arm, leaving trails of fire in their wake. "Trust me." The walk to the cottage felt like a dream, Julie's hand in mine guiding me through the gathering dusk. The small building sat at the edge of the property, surrounded by honeysuckle and old oak trees. Julie fumbled with the key for a moment before the door swung open, revealing a cozy interior lit by soft lamplight. Emma was already there, having somehow arrived before us. She stood by the window, her silhouette elegant against the fading light. When she turned, her smile was warm but knowing, as if she'd been expecting us. "I wondered when you two would find your way here," Emma said, her voice carrying a subtle accent I couldn't quite place. Julie's been talking about you for months, Laura. I felt a blush creep up my neck. She has? Oh, yes. Emma moved closer, her movements graceful and assured. She's shown me pictures, told me stories about your summers together. I feel like I know you already. Julie's arm slipped around my waist, pulling me against her side. Emma and I have been close for several years now, she explained, her meaning clear. We share everything. The implication hung in the air between us, heavy with possibility. Emma stepped closer, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in her green eyes. We don't want to pressure you, Emma said softly, her hand reaching out to touch my arm. But if you're interested in exploring this connection with Julie, I'd love to be part of that journey. My mind reeled at the suggestion, but my body responded with a surge of heat that surprised me. I'd never considered such a thing before. But looking at these two beautiful, confident women, I found myself intrigued rather than shocked. I started, then stopped, unsure how to voice what I was feeling. Julie's lips brushed against my ear, her breath sending shivers down my spine. Just feel, she whispered. Don't think. Just feel. Emma's fingers found mine, intertwining gently. We'll take care of you, she promised, her voice like velvet. All you have to do is say yes. The word left my lips before I could second-guess myself. Yes. What followed was a slow, sensual dance of discovery. Julie's hands mapped the curves of my body with reverent touches, while Emma's lips pressed gentle kisses along my neck and shoulders. They moved with practiced coordination, as if they'd done this before, guiding me toward the large bed that dominated the cottage's single room. Layers of clothing fell away gradually, each piece removed with care and attention. When Julie's lips found the sensitive spot just below my ear, I gasped, my knees threatening to give way. Emma was there to steady me, her strong arms wrapping around my waist from behind. You're beautiful, Julie murmured against my skin, her hands tracing patterns of fire along my sides, even more beautiful than I remembered. Emma's lips found my shoulder, pressing soft kisses that made me arch against her. So responsive, she whispered approvingly. Julie was right about you. The bed was soft beneath us as they guided me down, their hands never leaving my skin. Julie positioned herself beside me, her fingers tracing my face with infinite tenderness. Are you sure about this? She asked, giving me one last chance to change my mind. I answered by pulling her down for another kiss, this one deeper and more passionate than before. Emma's hands found my thighs, her touch gentle but insistent, coaxing them apart with patient persistence. Time seemed to slow as they explored my body with reverent attention. Julie's mouth traced patterns along my collarbone, while Emma's hands worked their magic lower, building a heat within me that threatened to consume everything in its path. Their coordination was flawless, each touch perfectly timed to enhance the other's efforts. When Emma's lips replaced her hands, I cried out softly, my fingers tangling in Julie's silver hair. The sensations were overwhelming, a symphony of pleasure that built slowly, steadily, toward an inevitable crescendo. Julie's mouth found mine again, swallowing my gasps and moans as Emma continued her ministrations. Let go, Julie whispered against my lips. Let us take care of you. The peak when it came was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Wave after wave of sensation crashed over me, leaving me trembling and breathless in their arms. Julie held me close as I came down from the heights, her fingers stroking my hair while Emma pressed gentle kisses to my thighs. That was incredible, I whispered when I could finally speak again. Julie smiled, her eyes soft with affection. We're just getting started. Emma moved up to join us, settling on my other side so that I was surrounded by their warmth. Your turn to explore, she suggested, her hand guiding mine to Julie's body. What followed was a night of discovery unlike any I'd ever experienced. We moved together in an intricate dance of give and take, each of us both giver and receiver in turn. Julie's body was familiar yet foreign, her responses teaching me new ways to bring pleasure. Emma's patient guidance helped me navigate this new territory, her encouraging whispers boosting my confidence. When Julie reached her peak beneath my inexperienced but eager touch, her cry of release sent fresh heat coursing through my veins. Watching her face contort with pleasure, feeling her body arch beneath my hands, was almost as satisfying as my own earlier experience. Emma was next, her body responding beautifully to our combined attentions. Julie and I worked together, learning each other's rhythms as we focused on bringing Emma to the same heights we'd just experienced. Her release was quieter, but no less intense, her body trembling between us as she whispered our names. As the night wore on, we explored every possible combination, every way three bodies could come together in harmony. There were moments of awkwardness as we navigated this new dynamic, but they were quickly overcome by laughter and gentle guidance. Each peak we reached together seemed more intense than the last, building on the trust and connection we were forging. The early hours of morning found us tangled together in the cottage bed, our bodies slick with perspiration and satisfaction. Julie lay between Emma and me, her head on my shoulder while Emma's arm draped across both of us. "I never imagined," I whispered, still trying to process everything that had happened. "Life has a way of surprising us," Emma murmured, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on Julie's back. "Sometimes the best things come when we least expect them." Julie lifted her head to look at me, her eyes bright with contentment. "I'm so glad you said yes tonight." "So am I admitted, surprised by how true the words were. Though I never would have imagined my family reunion would end like this." Emma chuckled softly. "The best adventures are the ones we never see coming, say." The sun began to rise, painting the cottage walls with golden light. We finally disentangled ourselves to dress. The family barbecue was long over, most of our relatives having retired to their respective accommodations hours ago. "What happens now?" I asked as we prepared to leave the cottage, uncertainty creeping into my voice. Julie took my hands in hers, her expression serious. "That's up to you. Emma and I would love to stay in touch, to see where this connection leads, but there's no pressure, no expectations." Emma nodded in agreement. "We understand this was a big step for you. Whatever you decide, we want you to know that tonight was special for all of us." I looked at these two remarkable women who had opened my eyes to possibilities I'd never considered. The thought of going back to my ordinary life, of pretending this night had never happened, seemed impossible. "I'd like that," I said finally. "To stay in touch, I mean. To see what develops." Julie's smile was radiant. "I was hoping you'd say that." Emma squeezed my hand gently. "This is just the beginning." As we walked back toward the main house in the growing dawn light, I marveled at how much had changed in a single evening. I'd come to this reunion expecting nothing more than polite conversation and nostalgic memories. Instead, I'd discovered a part of myself I never knew existed, guided by a cousin whose connection to me ran deeper than blood. The other family members were still asleep as we quietly made our way to our respective rooms. At my door, Julie pulled me close for one final kiss, this one tender and full of promise. "Sweet dreams," she whispered against my lips. "They will be," I replied, knowing it was true. Later that morning, as I packed my bags for the journey home, I found a note slipped under my door. In Julie's familiar handwriting, it simply said, "Thank you for trusting us with your heart. Until next time. J&E." I folded the note carefully and tucked it into my purse, a tangible reminder that the night hadn't been a dream. As I loaded my car and prepared to leave the farm, I caught sight of Julie and Emma in the distance, walking hand in hand toward their own vehicle. Julie turned and waved, her smile visible even from afar. I waved back, feeling a warmth in my chest that had nothing to do with the summer heat. The drive home gave me time to process everything that had happened. By the time I reached my own front door, I knew with certainty that this was just the beginning of something beautiful and unexpected. 3 months later, I found myself on a plane to California, where Julie and Emma had invited me to spend a long weekend with them. The anticipation thrumming through my veins was familiar now, a pleasant reminder of that first night in the cottage. Family reunions, I decided, would never be quite the same again. Sometimes the most unexpected encounters change everything. Have you ever had a family gathering lead to something completely surprising? What would you do if an old relative made such a bold move? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one and love hearing your stories. Before you all go, hit that like button, subscribe for more intimate tales, and ring that notification bell so you never miss when things get interesting. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for joining me tonight.